The last thing we can talk about is savings. Okay, so that would be the next step. Savings, a lot of people take out retirement annuities, okay, because they're tax deductible. Me personally, I'm not in favor of retirement annuities. Okay, that's my personal opinion. I've never seen anyone retire from a retirement annuity in 30 years of being in this industry. And I've got clients that are 65, 70, and clients that are 25 and 30. So savings is important, because otherwise you'll spend your money on something else all the time. If you go out, there's always someone asking you to come spend money there, if it's perfume or shoes or
breakfasts.
I mean, life's becoming crazily expensive.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I mean, if you go out for coffee 5 times a week, you'll be like 800 Rand a month just for my coffee bill going out.
Yeah.
That's not going out for drinks or anything else. So when it comes to savings, I tell people the easiest way to do this is you don't need a policy for savings. You just take your laptop, you go allengray.co.za, and you register, you log in as a new client, you put in all your details, and then choose one of the funds, like which one ever you want. You know, it could be equity fund. Let's take that. And I think their minimum is 750 Rand.
Like a global equity fund.
A global equity fund or balanced fund.
Okay.
Your guess, no one can tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. So otherwise they should be trillionaires. You know, Alan Gray's making, their fund managers are making the decision on which shares to buy that make up that basket of funds. Pay 750 Rand a month, comes off on debit order. It's available should you ever need it. That's incredible. You know, with an RA, you can't touch your money until you're 55, except for this 2-pot system, which I think you can draw out 30,000 Rand. I mean, it's like peanuts. And then you have to wait till you're 55. I just don't think in today's times that they actually are my next step. I'm first saying, hold on a second. If I want to invest money, I'm going to do that allengray.co.za, choose an equity fund because I'm young. I don't care what the stock markets do. I actually want them to collapse. Well, I don't want them, but if I'm young, I just want them to go down because I'm buying all the way. I'm buying down all the time because somewhere along the line when I'm older, they're going to go up. When I'm older, I don't want them to go down. I just want them to stay or go up. So
yeah, fair enough.
No one can win all the time. But I mean, you're young, so that's what I would do. And in 10 years' time, if you've got 100,000 there or 150,000, you decide, hey, we're out of the country or we need it desperately because something's happened, it's available for you. No one's telling you can't take your money, when you can take it, how much you can take it.
And you can do that I can do that on my laptop at home.
You do it. You don't need an advisor. Why would you do it through an advisor when you can actually just do it through yourself? Well, and you're paying less fees, by the way, so you're doing it directly with Alan Gray. I mean, really quite simple stuff.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I want to plan for, if I've got kids and I want to plan for their education, so I have some money down the line, because I've just got a new baby. Do the same thing. Alan Gray here today, $750 a month, $1,000 a month, $2,000. It really doesn't matter. You know, just it's a great savings way of savings. Saving.
Can I pause you there? You wanted to ask something?
I want to know, I know a lot of people that were, this was a few years ago, but in their early 20s that were taking out RAs. And I just didn't think that was a really good, I mean, at such a young age, why would you need to take a retirement out at 22, 23? Okay,
so remember I said to you it's my opinion. So everyone's got an opinion. You ask 50 people, you get 50 different opinions. They actually say the younger you start, the more that you'll have at 55 or 60 whenever you decide to retire, which is true, obviously. In an RA, it's also tax deductible. We've mentioned that. But for me, personally, I think people should have access to their money when they need it. So if I'm 22 and I want to start my savings, I'm going to go allengray.co.za and start saving that way. Not in a retirement annuity. Because at 32 or 35 or 33, I might decide I've met the love of my life. We're moving to Germany. Okay, well, if I've got 50,000 in my RA, then I can't really touch all the money. If I've got 50,000 sitting in my unit trust with Alan Gray or Coronation or whichever one you want, I can take all the money and off I go.
And access it whenever I want to.
Yes.
So you would need to have a little bit more discipline as an individual to not be pinching at your own fund all the time.
Exactly. So, you know, you would have to have some discipline. Not say, well, I've got 50,000 saved in my RA. Gee, that TV looks great. 20,000, let me go take 20,000 out of my Alan Gray fund and buy the TV. I mean, you can. It's but it's not there for that. It should be there for.
And if you're saying you start your RA at 22, at 35 you decide, you know what, I don't want to do this. How is the procedure to then get your money out of the RA?
Well, if it's over a certain limit, you can't get it. You can only get access to a certain portion of it, which I think they made available this year, which was 30,000.
Sure.
That was called the two-pot system.
That's
I think.
tricky.
I could be wrong because I'm not big on RAs, for the reasons I've told you.
Yeah.
So it would have to sit there until you're 55.
What?
Yeah, the balance of it. Whereas
What if
in your
we
unit
cancel
trust,
paying
you can actually have access to all your money. So that's all I'm saying. But
Yeah.
again, coming back to your question, I'm 22. Well, if I'm 22, have I got a medical aid? Am I on a hospital plan? Do I have car insurance? Do I have disability cover and illness
you go through
cover?
the lists.
Yeah.
Then the next thing is my savings.
Okay.
Because what's the point of having all my savings and tomorrow I have an accident and I can't work? Okay, like I said to you, this is for people that are working for themselves. If you are working for a big corporate company, like if you're in Investec Bank or you're working for Allen Gray or you're at one of the other corporates, you would have income protection, a bit of life cover, maybe not illness cover, and you'd be on a medical aid. So then you would have gap cover, okay? And then again, I would just go allengray.co.za for savings. Sure. And if I needed more life cover, I would do exactly what I just told you. Have one life policy with both of you on it, because you might buy an apartment.
Yeah, and then you can just up it.
Yeah. And again, even with those savings, you can manage it yourself. You can start off on 5,000 Rand a month and then reduce it down to 1,000 Rand a month. So, or you can start it on 1,000 and keep on increase it slowly as you have disposable income, which is something that's very rare nowadays for people to have disposable income because of how expensive life has become.
Yeah.
Cost of food, cost of
Day-to-day living
electricity.
is ridiculous.
If you've bought an apartment, it's not just the bond repayments. The levies are also becoming quite crazily expensive.
Yeah, I know. We're busy looking at buying property, and that is something to note. You do the bond calculator and you see, okay, I've got a little bit of money, folks will help deposit. And you take a look at the rates and levies, and you must equate that into your bond repayment. It's
actually quite a bit.
It's the levies
it
which
adds
are
up.
the levies can actually in some of those blocks. Even if you buy a 2.5 million Rand apartment, sometimes the levies are 3.5 to 4,000 Rand a month.
Lee, here's the thing: we saw a great unit, we loved it. It was in that 2.5 range, and the levies were like 3,000, 3,500 around there.
Yeah, that's just the levies.
And
then your rates are probably going to be 1,200. So you can say we're 5,000 Rand besides what we have to pay on the bond.
Yeah,
Exactly.
deep.
Besides what we have, the
cost
medical
of
aid, the car insurance, maybe the
Yes.
car payment,
That's nuts.
and food.
That's
Yeah.
nuts. There's a way though, from just having this discussion with you, to get all of your eggs in an order and to have a little bit of this, a little bit of cover. Like you said, have it because you don't want to experience the not having it part. You don't want to go to hospital and not be on a medical aid.
And that's not necessarily free as people think, because they still can ask you for your bank records and you'll still pay maybe 50% or 60% of what the private hospital would be.
So I've heard. So yeah, I mean, this is a lot to think about here, but it doesn't seem unachievable. Is what I'm trying to say. Especially the way that we're discussing it. I mean, if you cancel out paying $2,000 on an RA and you're in a forced position, you say, okay, I want to pay 800 Rand a month for my, and at least have something, especially on the months where you say, okay, it was a tough month for us and we don't want to necessarily put in an extra $2,000 into the savings part of our life. At least with this Allen Gray fund you've told us about, you can reduce
you can stop
your own investment, you can pause it, or I mean, that's helpful.
You can have access to the money that's sitting there if you're in an emergency.
Yeah, like you're more in control in that situation rather than having. It's much better.
Yeah. So savings are important. I'm not saying you mustn't have savings, I'm just saying that's the way to do it. Do you understand all that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we do. We help people. We use Discovery predominantly even for the disability and dreaded disease cover. I don't work for Discovery, but I choose Discovery because for myself, Discovery, I think I've got the best illness cover in South Africa, and I don't want to confuse you with that stuff. But most other companies with illness cover, if you had a bypass and you have illness cover, they'll pay you the entire. So if you have 500,000 illness cover and you have a bypass, they'll pay you 500,000. That's great. So with Discovery. Okay, so what's the difference? It's in the fine print in many other companies. I'm not going to mention company names. Is if you have another bypass down the line or another heart procedure further down the line in your life, the severity's got to be higher the second time around before you can claim again.
What?
So you can't have a bypass. Okay, we've paid you
That's
500,000 Rand. You're still paying your monthly premium, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. And 3 years later, the guy says, oh, well, we need to do another bypass, or we need to do a stent. And you think, okay, well, my medical aid's going to pay. I'm in hospital, the gap cover covers the surgeon. Oh, sheesh, I've still got that policy that I'm busy paying, my life and dreaded disease. I can also claim on that. Okay, so you've got to look into the company's fine print and not just listen to what someone is saying. Discovery will pay you whether the severity is the same, less, or more.
Okay.
On illness claims.
Wow.
So that is fundamentally why we use Discovery for that. I mean,
because they pay the claims.
well, they pay it if it's more severe or the same or less. So, for example, a stent is less than a bypass. I mean, as a severity. So you can still claim on the stent, and even if you've claimed on the bypass. So, yeah.
Sure.
It is more expensive. Discovery's illness cover. In general, it's more expensive, but it is, I think, the Rolls Royce of illness cover in South Africa.
Yeah.
And that's why we predominantly use them. You don't know what you need until you need it, and that's how life works.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
you don't think you need to see a psychologist until you're feeling depressed, and you wonder where that came from, or that you become older and you starting to think about the things of your childhood that weren't great, and then they're starting to bother you. Oh, now you realize I'm feeling this anxiety. I wonder where it's coming from, and then you need to work through that. And then it's good to be able to go and see
deep.
somebody.
That was real. Wow, yeah. That's so true.
Yeah,
That's true.
things happen.
Can't escape that.
Accidents happen. People have car accidents all the time, but we're still driving.
Yeah.
Just hopefully it's never going to happen to us. But that's why we have this covers.
Because you just never know.
Yeah, sort of like a grudge purchase in a way.
So you're going to take some cover out for me, my love?
I think so, darling.
Yeah, you can take out 100
Vice
million
versa.
on each other.
Awesome.
In any case, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm glad. So you can get a hold of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you so
Elena.
much. Seriously.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and all the best.
Yeah.